And we are live. Good
Hello.
morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, and I hope you're all enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
There's lots more left today.
What a fabulous day yesterday, but yes, a whole other day today. So we are
We are.
shooting the Wild Witch Breeze that Ellen and I do every other Thursday. You'll find us Thursday evening, 7 p.m. over on the Moonbix Facebook page. We never have a theme. We never have a script. We see where the gods take us. And it's taken us to some very wild and woolly places. That's for
and
sure.
it probably will again today.
Yes. Ellen, do you want to do a little intro of who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm me. Having got over that one. Elen Sentier, I write and teach about the old ways of Britain. That's the old magical ways, what people call shamanism in everyday parlance. We don't. We've got our own words for it. But it's the same stuff. It's magic, and it goes back probably, well, at least 40,000 years that we know. And it goes back 1 million years in this country because they found stuff in the archaeology. So we ain't new. And I write and teach it.
And I am a witch, basically, kitchen witch, if you want to give me a label, but very much like Ellen, I follow the old ways. My path has twisted from Wicca through various incarnations, but I have more and more these days found that I'm working with the ancient, really ancient goddesses and gods of Britain before even the Romans came over for their picnics. So yeah, I think we're both very much connected with the land, aren't we? That's where
Absolutely. Well, that's what the word pagan means.
Yeah.
Pagan means, it's Latin, of the land.
Yeah.
And that's all it means. It doesn't mean we eat babies.
Anyway,
I couldn't manage a whole one, and you can't get them organic nowadays.
I'm actually 250 years old. This is why I look so good. Seriously, people, if you wanted sensible stuff, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, you are, really. But we are sensible some of the time.
Some of the time, yeah. Actually, it's interesting because we've had such a fascinating day yesterday with such a broad variety of pathways, generally under the pagan umbrella. And shamanism was one of the panels yesterday, which was absolutely brilliant. But I wanted to ask you, Ellen, because you use the title shaman and shamanic practices within the work that you do. And I think a lot of people associate it with something really exotic, and that shamanism is only in far off countries and specific to particular cultures, but it's not, is it? I mean, you are very, very working very much with the British side of it. So
yeah, that's what I do. I mean, I am British this incarnation. Yes, we do reincarnation, and that's where I come from. I mean, I'm very odd anyway, but I'm a bit different from many people in that I'm one of the people whose family did this, and theirs and theirs and theirs going back generations. I mean, the village that I grew up in, we can trace history back 4,000 years. So, don't tell me I'm new. I'm seriously not new. And it's seriously in the land. I use the term shaman because it's so well known. I can say it to Americans and South Africans and Australians and Europeans, and they've got a vague idea what I'm talking about. Yeah. I mean, if I start saying to you, I am Awenes, I mean, can you even spell it?
I'm guessing it's Welsh.
Yes, but be careful what you say with Welsh, because Welsh was actually a Romanized and Saxonized name, which means foreigner. And so it's a little bit sort of up yours.
It all gets very complicated.
Oh my God, does it? Yeah, relationships. There you go. But no, it's the old language, the old British language, which is called Brythonic, which is incredibly ancient.
Yeah.
Literally thousands and thousands of years old. And if you want it spelt, it's AWENNNIYDD. See, I can't even do it.
I'm going to test everybody on this later.
Absolutely, there is a test. But you wouldn't have a clue what I was talking about.
No.
Well, I mean, you would because we've talked, but most people wouldn't. So, what?
And then I only know because I asked you. So.
You've probably seen it in one of the books that whizzed past your nose or something like that. But so what's the point of starting off being difficult for people? And I might as well start off with something that they know and then lead them into it and say, well, actually, this is what we call ourselves. And the word shaman is Tungus. That's from northern central, what is now Russia. And the shamanic peoples there are very ancient too, as are all shamanic peoples everywhere in the world. And they are similar in some ways to us in that they had and have reindeer up there, and they were reindeer followers. We were reindeer followers. But it means one who knows.
Oh, you've got a question.
Yay. When, if.
Wheneth.
We won't bother with the plural because that will really confuse you.
Well, we are going to test you on it later, Andrew, so get practicing.
Right, okay. So it means one who knows. And Awen is a word for spirit in our old British language. And the ith ending is sort of one who is difficult. If you've done any languages, you know how all languages are difficult like this.
Yeah.
The ith bit sort of means one who knows the spirit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Or one who keeps the spirit. We normally call it keeping, spirit keeping. We are spirit keepers. Now, we don't keep it in a box and hide it away from everybody.
That's what you're doing wrong.
No way. But we don't do that. We actually allow people, we keep it so that anybody who wants it can access it. And we help them access it and enable themselves with spirit to find their own path. Yes, there are basic guidelines that we do. Small advert.
No, make it a big advert.
It's advert time. You can make tea. You can find out what these basic things are on my website, www.deartrods.com. I'm sure that will be flashing its way around the universe sooner or later. But we will show you what they are. And basically, they're asking, listening, hearing properly, i.e. not translating what you hear, but hearing what the actual being, person or animal or whatever it was said to you, not you thought it did. Noticing, which is really important, and we don't do it half enough. And being still, being with, being aware of. And those are the basic stuff that I teach in the work that I do and I write about and all this kind of stuff. Does that help a bit to start you off?
Yeah, I think for me, I think it was that because there is such a thing about different cultures and appropriation and all that palaver. I think for me, I have actually had people say, "Oh, you can't be a shaman in Britain," and I knew that wasn't right because I knew for a start that you wouldn't have used the word without having the knowledge and the info and the history to back it up. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of put that out there that Great Britain did have shamans, does have shamans. You know. So yeah, it was
go to Russia and find out, and you probably won't be able to pronounce it at all.
So yeah, for me, it was about just sort of clearing up that bit of information, really. But it's interesting the things that you say that it covers about noticing and being aware of. That kind of covers all different pathways within the paganism umbrella, doesn't it? We should all be doing that, whatever pathway that we follow.
And you find it. I mean, I've got a very good friend who lives in Australia, and he has contact with, and good ones, you know, friendly contacts with the native people there. And yes, they train their young to do the same thing. I've had friends and I've got a friend from the Sioux Nation in America, and she says, yes, we train our people the same thing. And, you know, we do things this way around. I mean, they have a different way around of the directions to us.
Yes, yeah.
But then they're not here.
No, no.
We can look to the east for the dawn. And if you're on the east coast, wow, it comes out of the sea and all this kind of thing. They can't. I mean, in California, you look to the dawn coming over the mountains.
Yeah.
And the sunset goes down in the sea, which only happens in Devon and Cornwall here. Sorry about the rest of you. So it's different. One thing I think we all do have, like in the Northern Hemisphere, now there's one place where the sun never shines. And don't give me the rude answer.
Oh, actually.
Give me the real answer, Rachel.
No, you put me on the spot now, because all I've got is the rude answer in my head.
Well, okay, the sun rises in the east, it does midday in the south, and it sets in the west. So where doesn't it go?
Come on, you lot. Let's have some answers from you lot out there. Come on. Let's have some answers. This is where I'm going.
East, south, and west. What's left?
It's north, isn't it? Yes.
It is, yeah. And so for us in the
none of you get a point, okay?
No, that's minus marks gone immediately. In the Northern Hemisphere, the sun never actually shines from the north. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's the other way up, of course.
And if you're interested in Australian paganism, do have a look at the panel that was on before us. Some fascinating stuff about all of that. It was interesting, actually, because they have to obviously work with the Wheel of the Year. Is a bit rubbish for them, isn't it? Because it is,
just turn it upside down.
It's not. They were saying it's interesting because it's not quite that straightforward, depending on where they live. And I think we find that as well, depending on the seasons. And up north in Scotland is very different to down south in Cornwall for weather, for seasons. So you have to be really flexible, I think, with the Wheel of the Year, wherever you are. And probably something, again, that we've talked about a lot is about being connected to the land that you're on.
Absolutely.
And working with that energy of the day, of the week, of your area, really. Oh, Sue gets a gold star for North.
Yay, good on you, Sue. Good on you. Great. I sort of agree with that, but I think you need to go back to the source.
Yes.
Because it's not the weather that gives you the seasons. It's the sun.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the Wheel of the Year is about the route that our sun travels, or our planet travels around the sun.
Yeah.
And so spring is the time when the sun starts, you get more and more and more sun every day until midsummer. Midsummer is the time when it's at the top.
Yeah.
Then you get less and less and less sun to autumn. And then it's equal again, like it was at spring. And then you get less and less and less to, if you're in Scotland, the sun hardly rises at all. And if you're in Norway, it doesn't.
Yes.
At midwinter. And then it changes again and you get more and more light. Now, this happens the other way up in Australia.
Yeah.
which I've talked about a lot with my friend. And, you know, we were Zooming the other day and he said, it's winter here. I said, it's midsummer here.
Not that it feels like it's midsummer much at the moment. We've had
come on, it did yesterday.
Yes, couple of days we've had. Couple of days of summer, that's it.
We've had it now, that's fine.
Yeah, finished.
But I think that's important. And then to take that into, how is your land asking you to work?
Yeah.
And there comes a big questions. And I know you have it when you're doing your teaching with the witchy stuff, is how does the land want you to work? Not how do you want to work with the land?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One of the first lessons, well, the first lesson we teach is about working with energy and connecting with the energy of the land that you live on and the area that you're in, and, you know, the energy of the day, because it changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it changes what you do and what you feel and everything like that. And I think, I mean, when you actually look at archaeology a bit, you know, I'm a geek. Okay, get over it. You realize that a lot of the stuff that maybe you were taught at school, like, oh, you know, a creature without as big a brain as us can't be as bright as us. And so,
hello,
you know,
have you met the human race?
Yeah, we're not going. We said we're not going there this morning, so don't. Right, fine. No, so evolution used to go, you know, from a little piddling little brain to bigger to guys who've got egos the size of a planet, but to bigger brains, and that meant you were more evolved. And it was only about 3 or 4 years ago, may not even be that long, they found a cave in the islands around Sumatra somewhere. I don't think it was Sumatra, but it was around there. And they found the most fascinating tools and really complex drawings and quite complex tools that were very perfectly made. All the sort of stuff that we consider is sort of like evolved.
Yeah. And
they found the skeletons and the skulls of the people who lived there, and they were smaller than ours.
Right. Yeah.
So they were all going, oh, we need to rewrite those textbooks.
Let's cross that out and start again.
So there's so little that we do know.
Yeah.
But we've had our traditions here. I mean, your tradition, the witchy tradition, it's so similar to mine. I mean, so you call yourself a witch and I call myself Arweneth. It's a label.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We are a bit hung up on labels, though, aren't we? I think we do, to a certain degree, like to be put in little boxes with their label on so that we know.
Well, if you're only in something this size, it's safe, isn't it? If it's this size, there's a lot of room around you.
I think we do. Maybe it is a human thing about wanting to feel that we belong somewhere, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it is about being able to identify ourselves. But even within those pathways, specific pathways, we all vary slightly, don't we?
We do. And that the old traditions of Britain, they vary where you come from.
Oh, yes.
Where you are. I mean, I come from Dartmoor and Exmoor. That's
beautiful landscape.
Yes, it is. I totally agree. And now I live in Shropshire. And I've lived in lots of places in between. But I know I was brought up, of course, on the Dartmoor and Exmoor stuff because that's where I was. That's where, because it wasn't just my family. There were lots of old ones in the village. You know, there must have been about a dozen of us. And even our vicar was really interested and used to help and come in those days and do things with us, which was gorgeous. And he also said, "Oh, that's like this. I wonder where we got that from," which was interesting of him. He was a good bloke.
Very switched on, yeah.
Yeah, he was together, and he wasn't, you know, shut it out. It's a horrible, beastly pagan. So I grew up in that. Now, here, for instance, because I'm fascinated with where I am, what's the land like? What's it talking to me about? What are the old traditions around here?
Mm.
And gradually, by not being too nosy and pushy and pokey, people are talking to me.
Right.
That's ordinary human people. And it's just a little bit different. And they have different names for things.
Right.
Oh, you mean that's a so-and-so? Oh, yeah, that sounds right. They have a very strong tradition of like hermit witches here who have been, and there's still 2 or 3 around. And they're people who've been doing what we call living off grid
Right.
For generations.
Yeah.
And they do, and they're all herbalists, of course. They all know animals very, very well, of course.
Yeah.
They all know pathways and streams. They're really hot on the weather.
Yes.
And all of this kind of thing, but they do things slightly differently. And so, you know, when I'm lucky enough to be talking with one, how do you do this? And, you know, you're really nice and tentative about it. And then they sort of say, oh, well, we do it like this. Don't you do it like that? So I was brought up to do it like this. Oh, yeah, I do see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that they're going to change their ways. Why should they?
No, exactly.
But again, we're allowing each other.
Yeah.
And people do when you don't shove and push.
Mm. But I think it's important as well. Particularly the weather's interesting because there used to be the sort of farmers and the people of the land and locals all could tell the weather. They could predict the weather by the birds or the feel in the air or the plants. Or I think we've lost things like that, haven't we? Or are losing that. There just isn't that kind of tradition anymore because people look up the weather on their phones.
Yeah, which I'm not
do it. Oh, it's raining outside. Just put your phone down and look out the window.
Yeah, there's some rather funny stories about things like that. Yeah, indeed. I mean, and I do look at the weather. I'm a gardener, as Rachel knows, and so I will sort of look at the weather before I go to bed at night and say, "Oh no, I can't do that tomorrow. I can't mow. No, but it's raining. I can plant. Okay, I can do that."
Yeah.
And then you look out the window in the morning, see whether it's actually doing what it said it thought it was going to do last night. But I can still do this because I was brought up. I mean, funniest one was I was with this bloke who was an ecologist, and he had a degree to prove it and all this kind of thing. And we were talking about we're actually talking about rewilding gardens, and the sun had been out, and it started to cloud over. So he said, "Oh, clouds coming. It's probably going to rain." And I went, "No, it's too high." And he went, "What?" I said, "Cloud's too high. That won't fall." He went, "Oh, how did you know?" I said, "Well, experience."
Because I could see it.
Learning, I was taught this, and I know that when the clouds are up that high, they are not going to drop rain. They're going to come lower before they will drop it, until they hit a hill, and then they'll drop it.
Yeah.
And he was like, and I thought, bloody hell, what do they teach you on these degrees?
But that's part of your noticing, isn't it? That's part of noticing and taking. You see it one day, realize what happens, you take note of it. So then the next time you see it, you realize that it's not going to do that. Yeah, it's part of taking in what's going on around you.
Yeah. There's a thing like, I mean, I get it here because I live in the middle of an organic beef farm, so there are lovely cows all around us. And she said, "Oh, the cows are lying down. It'll rain later." And it does.
Yeah.
And you just these things, and of course it's all stuff that's come out of old habit.
Now, I was taught that one, but when I was a child.
Well, you're a farming family, so yes, you know. Yeah. But I think it's important that you know, shamanism isn't about swallowing a load of drugs that's going to make you sick and then feeling better because, oh, I've sicked it all up, I must be clean now. No, you've just got a bloody bad stomach. Sorry, I'm a bit brutal on that one. And yes, we do use plants in this country, as Rachel very well knows, because that's your speciality, or one of them.
Not that I deal with the ingesting those type of plants, but
but we've got them.
Yes.
And we do them, both psychedelic ones, sick-making ones, and the ones that I use most, the dreamers, the ones that enhance your dreaming and enable you to fully daydream and all this kind of thing.
Caramel latte does it for me. Caffeine and sugar, and I'm away with the fairy.
Yeah, that's called a carb hit.
That's all I need.
Hey. Oh, you lucky so-and-so.
Oh, yes.
Oh, envy.
Start living my life. Fantastic.
Well, you make sure you do that. That would be really good. But it's about your relationship with the rest of the world that you live in.
I think, though, I live on the edge of the city, so my situation is really quite different to yours, although I am quite close to the ocean and the forest. And I've got my tiny little garden, which is my sanctuary. But I think it's the land beneath your feet, even if it is a city, has got a history. It has the layers of ancestors, and it has the spirit of place. It has, for me, it's really important to connect with that wherever you are, to find out, to make yourself feel at home. I think if you make that connection, you will feel much more at home. And even your 1970s concrete car park's got an energy to it, hasn't it? It's got a spirit to it. It might be pretty miserable, but it'll have a spirit to it. But I think, again, on the edge of the city I live in it's a port. But it's got a massively long history. So if you dig deep enough, you can find the folk stories and the lore and the history and things that go back below. So even if you don't live in a sacred space or, an ancient place, supposedly ancient place, you can still dig and find history about it, and you learn from it. And I think it helps your pathway as well. It helps build your own spirituality.
It's a bit like, when Rachel and I first met years ago now, must be, we're all back in the mists of whenever. We were like asking each other about each other, and where did you come from? What did you do? La la la. As you do when you make friends with somebody, you start to find out about them, and they start to find out about you. Well, you make friends with a place the same, don't you?
Absolutely. And it's always surprising as well. You live in a completely different part of the country to me. We have completely different backgrounds. We have different labels for our pathways, but actually the similarities and the crossovers happen all the time, don't they? Because you say something, I say, oh yeah, I do that, and I say something, you say, yeah, I do that.
Yeah, I do that.
It might be a different name or a slightly different way of doing it, but there's so many crossovers there.
Yeah. And that was something I was having a little ponder while I was waiting for poor Rachel to sort out the last person, get herself a large caramel latte and get herself together, poor woman, because she's slogging away here for us for 2 days. And this little thing came from them, and it said, all paths come from the mother.
And I nodded in agreement. Absolutely.
And they do. And so, you may call yourself a shaman in Russia. I mean, strictly speaking, all the people in the Americas, North and South, have different words for who they are. They are using the word shaman because it's a well-known word, the same as I do. The people in Africa and Australia, they have different words for who they are. There are loads of different names all over Europe for the various forms of shamanism. And yes, there's shamanism all over Europe too.
Well, we had a shamanism panel yesterday, and it is on replay if anyone wants to catch up with it. 2 people from America who are shamans, and a very lovely lady from Sweden who is a shaman. And I mean, that's worlds apart, isn't it? But all walking a very similar pathway.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, this whole weekend is a mix, isn't it? We have got druids, we've got witches, we've got Wiccans, we've got just purely spiritual folk with no, particular pathway. Such a variety. But having listened to all of them yesterday, I found myself nodding along and agreeing to so many of the things that they've said, even though it might not be the particular pathway I follow or the particular goddess I deal with, or there are so many crossovers and similarities. It is, as you say, all from the mother, however you see it.
It is. And one of those that you mentioning the goddess has just brought a memory back with my Sue friend. We were working together and chatting, and she did a lovely story ritual on and I can't remember this properly, so somebody can correct me if they want to.
We wouldn't dare.
Yes, you would. The white lady and the 3 brothers, and she is related to cattle, and she is the goddess of them. And the 3 brothers, it's the same story as the European ones. The 2 elder ones cock it up, and the young one gets it right. So same story format again. And so I said, oh, that's ever so like the power goddess that I call Bridie, who a lot of people call Bridget, etc. She is also very much related to cattle, particularly white cattle.
Yeah.
And she has a 3-ness about her, and she tests people in a similar sort of way. So we started chatting about the whole thing, and we both said, yeah, but she's very open. She's a lovely woman. She's very open. And she said, yeah, it's the same path, but in America, our land is different.
Yes.
Your land. She loves it over here too. And so I said, yeah, and this is it. You do what you do, and your rituals are what they are to fit with the land.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, absolutely. There was a panel on Bridget yesterday with 3 very knowledgeable ladies, all coming from slightly different, directions to it. And they did talk a lot about the cattle connection. And so that is on replay if you want to have a look. I see this lovely Cindy there. Hi, Cindy. Cindy did a brilliant talk yesterday on Hecate, who is probably one of the more well-known goddesses. And it was fascinating. But again, there are so many things you think, oh, yeah, oh, that makes sense. Oh, and I don't work with Hecate. I've never worked with Hecate, not because I've chosen not to, just because she's never kind of made an appearance. I tend to listen if someone comes.
Absolutely, yeah.
I try not to ignore them. But it was fascinating. You think, actually, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. The same with Bridget. I've touched a little bit on working with her, but not very much. But there were bits where I thought, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Or that sounds familiar. And it does. It goes across the globe, doesn't it? With the different deities. I am very much. I don't know how. I don't think we've actually mentioned this before. For me, spirituality started with whatever it was, a man, a woman, male, female, neither, both. It was an energy, and it spread across the globe, and each culture interpreted it in its own manner, but it was still the same thing. It was just interpreted in however they lived their lives. Like the Hindu deities all look darker skinned and they wear Hindu outfits. The Norse gods all have their big Norse outfits on. We interpret those. We
anthropomorphize them to ourselves.
We do, don't we? We like to make them look human, and we like to make them look in a way that we recognize them and that fits in with our own culture. So for me, it's one big diamond, and these gods and goddesses are all different facets of that one big diamond. They all have their individual characteristics and personalities, but essentially, as you say, they're all from the one.
They are indeed, indeed.
That's not, that's just my personal view of it.
No, I mean, I'm nodding away beside you. I don't see it in quite the same story that you do, but then everybody sees it as a different story.
Oh, absolutely. It has to work. It has to be how you connect with it.
Do you do that? I mean, it's one of the things that all my students get to do. They're terrified when they have to start, but they soon get over it. Is after a couple of seasons, a couple of lessons, I start making them tell stories.
Okay.
Instead of writing, a piece about what happened on the journey or something, I said, turn it into a story and tell. And we do it on Zoom. Right. So everybody gets a turn, and you all get to listen to everybody else's story, which, of course, the first time you're doing it is like
petrified.
and then some brave soul starts, and everybody listens, and we all go, wow. And we do, and it's not made up. It's not an act. Everybody's story is ever so different, and they've all had like the basic theme that this lesson was about. But the stories that have come out of them, and I've got 8 students, so I've got 8 different stories.
But that's ancient, isn't it? That's how information was imparted. That's how knowledge was passed on, wasn't it? Through stories.
Yeah. And you each have your own story. You don't have to learn somebody else's story. No. You can if you want. But the idea is that it's your steps and your path and you that are doing it. And yes, you're following in this tradition. We call it following the deer trods. But how you do it is going to be different from anybody else.
Yes. Yeah, I don't believe there is a right or wrong for anyone when they're working with things. There are obviously some safety issues with things.
And there are some things that you do not actually go around sacrificing squirrels.
Well, yes.
I'm sorry, that is a no-no to just about every god I've met.
Pretty much, yes, pretty much.
But yes, and there are definitely, one of the big safety issues which I have to teach, and I'm sure you do, is do not say yes to anything immediately.
Yes. And if it feels hinky, don't do it.
And if you're interested, but it still feels a bit hinky, have a long conversation. Tell me about it. Really works. Yeah. And they do actually want you to do this.
But I think that's intuition too. I know we've talked about this before, haven't we? I think when you do first start out on any of these pathways, intuition is, you don't trust it at first. It's definitely something that you have to learn and perhaps comes with experience. And even then, there are some times when you ignore it and think afterwards, damn,
bugger, I should have done that or not done that.
But again, that's something we've also talked about. It doesn't matter how many years you followed your pathway. We still make mistakes. We still get things wrong. Hopefully you learn from it.
No, I think we do, because at least, and you must find your students sort of say, well, I'm glad you told me about that because it did stop me doing so and so.
Yeah.
So your own mistakes are actually quite useful to other people as well as you.
Yeah. Yes, because I think they do look at certain key figures in the community and think, oh, they live that life. They do everything. They get up at dawn, wash their face in the dew, then they spend all day making spells and potions and conducting rituals. No. No. The first job in the morning is picking up the dog poop.
Feeding the cat.
Do normal stuff. We have to do the mundane stuff as well. We might work a little bit of magic into a lot of the mundane stuff,
Yeah.
But I think that you learn from experience as well, don't you? But we
You
do have to
do.
do all the ordinary stuff as well. And yeah, we do, you know,
I mean,
make
you know,
mistakes.
when you're cleaning, you know, there you are with the vacuum cleaner, bzz, 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 bzz. And but actually, that's really quite rhythmical, and it
Yeah, oh
doesn't
yeah.
doesn't require 100% concentration to get it right. So part of me is there, like, and you know, if I'm writing a book, then part of the book might be going along in my head. If I've got a lesson to do for the students, then part of the lesson might be going along in my head, and I'm doing it. I mean, I've even been known to shout spells at the bin bags when I'm trying to put them out and they're a bit full. Get in there! Oh, you did.
Yes, living in the city for me, it's the car park space spell,
Oh.
which gets said quite often on the way home. Right, okay. Goddess Mother, turn
Guys,
your
I need a space. I need a space. Oh yeah, yeah, and I mean that's a spell.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think I know anybody who drives a car who hasn't said at some point a variation on "give me a parking space," or "let me out into this road." But you've got to get into the main road, you know, and let me out.
Hi, Tony. Tony doesn't understand why the wildlife from the garden never come in to help clean up. Yeah, Snow White's got a lot to answer for, because wherever she found all those birds and that wildlife to come and do her housework, I want to know.
It's not real. They don't. And they will look at you and they will actually say, Tony, you made the bloody mess. You clean it.
Yes, slave labour.
The parking goddess is indeed a wonderful being. Yes, I totally and utterly
I pray
agree
to
with
her
you.
on a very regular basis.
Yes. But this is all part of it. And you are, even by something as apparently mundane, and you know, you're sort of Ponzi people who say, oh, you can't do that. You're talking to spirit.
Mm.
You really are. And they do help you, as you all know.
Not always in the way that you expect them to or want them to, because generally they know what you need and not always what you think you want.
Yes, I will agree with that. But I mean, I found it with the gardening with the plants, and they'll, you know, I'll sort of think, oh, I'll put that one over there, and it goes, no. And you go, well, all right, where do you want to go then? Over there. You put it over there, it actually looks twice as fantastic as you thought it was going to be, and it grows like hell.
Yeah.
If you put it over here, it would have looked crappy and it would probably have died.
And sulked completely.
Well, sulked and died again. And so it is this listening again. And, you know, okay, I mean, one time when I was doing that, I'd actually got a whole set of holes already dug for these plants. And I brought them all out in the wheelbarrow, and they went, we're not going in there. And it was like, really? We did have words for a minute. But I put them where they wanted, and it all actually worked really well, much better than I had dreamed it up.
And there we are with the listening part of it, isn't it? Listening and taking notice.
Yeah.
It's about living it too, isn't it? One of the questions, or one of the things that's often said to me is, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time to be a witch. Or
all the time I get it. Yeah.
You've got to work it into your daily life. It does take a little bit of juggling, and it's absolutely okay to not do magic for, you know, a period of time, or to not change your altar for all the Sabbats, or, you know, life gets in the way. You aren't going to be struck down by lightning, I promise. Promise.
And sometimes it didn't want to be changed.
Yeah.
And sometimes it wants to be changed in the middle of a season for a totally different reason.
Yep.
And you suddenly come past it and goes, yeah, exactly. And you're listening.
Yeah.
You're listening, Ashes. It's great.
Yes, crystals can be just as vocal as plants, can't
Absolutely.
they? It is all about listening, that's for sure.
Yeah. And it's worth it. Blowing at a set of traffic lights, turn green. Right, Tony. Yeah, okay. I think I'll just say, let me out of here.
That's a very polite way of doing it, Tony.
Or you're hurtling up to them and you know they're going to go red and you're going, no, 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 and they still do it anyway.
That's far more likely. So we've actually hit our time. We have,
haven't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
we've hit our time.
Yeah.
And we haven't mentioned anything about dead bodies today, which usually comes
Do keep up with us fortnightly. You will hear lots about dead bodies, doing a proper murder and getting away with it.
Absolutely.
No, you won't really, honestly.
Every other Thursday over on the Moonbooks Facebook page at 7 o'clock. Do have a look for us, and you will find recordings of our previous talks there and over on the YouTube channel.
Yes, you will.
Do stick with the Moonbooks Facebook page today. There are talks throughout right up until the last one's at 9 o'clock UK time tonight. So we've got fantastic speakers for the rest of today. All of yesterday's talks are for replay on Facebook page, and they're all, apart from Ellen's, who was really naughty and upset Facebook.
No, I'm an anarchist at heart. An anarchist in life, and I upset Facebook. I'm sorry.
You do. They will all be on the.
It's coming tomorrow.
It is, yeah. They'll all be on the Moonbooks YouTube channel this week. So do stick with us. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Tony has 5 of my books and the 6th for next month. Thank you, Tony. And 2 from Ellen now. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Trudy. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, everyone that's joined us today.
Yeah.
And thank you, as always, to Ellen. And I will see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah. See you soon, guys. Bye.
Take care.